Hey there you guys, I hope you've all been really well. It's been a few weeks since my last video, since I was visiting my friends in Vegas, which was a really good time actually, despite the fact that I had like an absolutely nightmarish flight. I won't go into it, you guys don't want to hear it. But I got to meet a lot of wonderful new people and spend time with a lot of people that I already knew, and I got to meet a lot of people that, you know, including some people that I've met through making these videos, which was really cool. So Ellis and Ami, if you're watching, hi. I'm hoping that I'll get to meet a heck of a lot more as well, so it was just a really good time. Now, with various regionals and official tournaments coming up, I thought it would be cool to show you guys my processes when actually building a deck, as opposed to just a deck profile after I've already made it. So that you guys can get a grasp on not just the choices that I make, but the reasons that I make them. So I'm going to build a deck right in front of you, in front of the camera, and talk you guys through why I make the choices that I do. So if you want to see how I prepare for a tournament through building, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to actually go to any of these regionals or anything, because work, etc. But who knows. But yeah, if you guys want to sit there and, you know, see how to prepare for a tournament in the same way that I would, then just keep on watching. So yeah, we're going to go straight into it. I mean, first things first, what do you think of this little beauty we have here? This is a playmat that was actually made for me while I was in Vegas, and it features sort of artwork that I've made myself, and it has my logo and everything on it. So there's a chance that this could go into actual production, so if you like this kind of thing, then let me know in the comments below. But we're going to go in and we're going to try and build up an ice and lightning deck. Now, the reason that I'm going to go and do this, and this is the first tip I have for anyone who's doing any deck building, is you need to think about what you're trying to achieve when you build a deck. Now, Ice and Lightning both have a lot of abilities that dull or freeze or kill character, basically just a lot of incapacitation to your opponent's forwards. So that's kind of the theme that I'm wanting to go for with this deck. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to identify the cards that you think will achieve that goal best. So what I've got here is I've pulled out a few cards, and I've already gone through a lot of my folders and things like that, because I tend to be very organised with my stuff, as you can see here, with just every card that I can in Opus 2, etc., or then I have a second folder for Opus 1, because I think keeping things organised is really important, because it allows you to kind of identify things quickly and find what you need to find. Now, so the first thing that I thought of when I built this deck was Ammon. Ammon is just an extremely good card, so that's something that we wanted to base it off. So I wanted to make sure that we go with a theme where I kind of pull out a load of cards from my folder that are on theme. So I'll show you the ones that I've picked up. So we have Kate Siths, Renoas, Snows, Lagunas, One Vein, and I'll come to him in a minute, Jill, and Shiva. Now all of these cards have a thing in common. All of them dull or freeze or just otherwise incapacitate a unit. Now this is all built around the kind of, you know, dulling mechanic rather than killing things. So that's something that we can add in as a secondary feature of the deck when we get to the lightning portion. Now the first thing that I like to do after this is to decide the ratios of what I want to play. And the way that I tend to do that is because I tend to go with the smallest portion of the deck first, which tends to be the summons. So summons I tend not to run more than 10 of in a deck. I mean, I have been known to run 11, sometimes even 12 in a deck, but in this particular deck we're going to run 10. So we've already got Shiva, as she is obviously an EX burst, which you want to try and keep as many of as possible in a deck. B, it kind of fits in with the theme of the deck, and C is a summon. So we'll start with her, and then continuing with Ice. Now I think that Matthias the Corrupt is an extremely powerful card, so therefore I'm going to run 3 of it here, because it gets around things that are very popular, and it's just very strong. And then we'll round it off with 4 copies of Odin, so that it ends up, you know, we have a nice just 10 summon suite where every single card in the deck incapacitates something, so that it stays in theme with the deck. Every single card in here either kills something or freezes it. So this is where we're going to start with the deck. So that's 10 cards out of 50. So then you want to kind of think about the ratios between the backups and the forwards. Normally people tend to run between 16 and 19 backups. There have been decks that run less, there have been decks that run more. But, you know, for the purposes of this video, I think we'll just stick with what we're going to do. Now, the other thing to bear in mind when you're building a deck is what's popular in the format. Why are people running what they run? You know, like, you know, we know that having come back since coming back from Vegas, Mono Fire and Mono Lightning are both very popular. Now, Mono Lightning is something that both of those things tend to do a lot of chip damage, which is why when you build a deck, you want to think about what counters these things. There's so many people who play these games, they sit there and go, this is busted, I can't be bothered, don't want any of this. So what I would suggest is just figure out what absolutely counters these things and then focus on that. Now, going into forwards, etc., because I'm going to start with the forwards, I think that one of the strongest forwards in the game right now is Capricious Reaper. And I'm not saying this is a Kuja fanboy, I mean everyone knows I'm a Kuja fanboy, but Capricious Reaper, let's say that your opponent is using the Alcid Onion Knight combo, which is a very well-known combo at the moment, which is designed to have 2 forwards out and kill one of your opponents. If they're doing this to a Capricious Reaper, they have to target him twice. Kuja also works for this, but he costs that much more. If you're having to target him twice, that's 2 cards more out of their hand that they're having to pay to kill your 4-cost guy. So this, to me, makes a lot of sense in this deck. Then with other forwards in the deck, you can kind of just go with what you think are just general kind of staples in the deck. We've already covered a lot of what we want to do in this portion, which is the portion that's dull and freeze, etc. So it's best to focus on one colour at a time. You can always take cards out if you need to. It's better to load too many than not enough. So I think that Squall is just a solid card. I'm only going to go with 2 here because I think he's kind of fallen off a lot recently. He's not quite as strong as he used to be. Renoa also fits in very, very well and also combines with the Squall to make her slightly more powerful. And Laguna for exactly the same reason, but then some, because he also has the EX burst, which means your count is higher. The higher you can make your count and the EX burst in a deck, the better. Straight up. Snow also provides a really low cost, easy going kind of forward that can, you know, dull units or anything like that. And I really like a singular copy of Vayne. Now Vayne is like a surprise factor more than anything like that, so if your opponent's deck is sort of concentrated on things that are big, say you're playing against a deck like my old one that ran Ultimecia, he absolutely kind of bitch slaps her in the face and says, no, you're not getting back up. Prish hates Vayne. There's a lot of characters that really dislike this character, so I always run 1. I think the S ability is unnecessary, so I just run the 1. But then that brings us already to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 forwards. So let's try and fit in all the other ones that we wanted to run already. So Amon and Kate Sith will go in, making 5. And then I think that this Terror has been really strong recently. Now Terror is really, really good against a lot of summon heavy decks. Then there are quite a few of those. I mean, this is something that could be changed out later. You have to also remember that this is a first draft of a deck. You are allowed to make mistakes when you are building a deck. It's an absolutely fine thing to do. Terra, I'm going into this knowing she may well come out. There are plenty of other options that she could be, but right now I'm going to try her out. And then we're rounding that off. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 forwards is still too few. So I've decided that I'm going to run 3 copies of Light Cloud in the deck as well. Because I think that Light Cloud is just extremely powerful. I think that Brave, you know, goes in with the theme of dulling your opponent's forwards frequently, and having the Omni Slash to be able to kill your opponent's forwards on tap is also very on theme, because obviously we're playing into Odins, we're playing into various different kill conditions and things like that. So this is all about just incapacitating your opponent's forwards. So then that leaves us with 22 forwards. 22 forwards and 10 summons means we have 32 cards left, so that gives us 18 backups. Now, that sounds like a fairly decent number to me. I like to keep my decks quite backup heavy because I like to make sure that I've always got the control on the board and that I'm not spending resources too early, and I like to see them early game, and it's easy to drop them off later. That's a double-edged sword because you can find that you end up with hands that are full of backups and no forwards, and that's never ever a good thing, but it's a risk that I'm willing to take. So then, as I say, we've got 22 forwards here, and then we can put the 10 summons that we've already picked out for this here, and then we can go into backups. Now there's a lot of different backups in the game, and I try to make sure that I have at least 7 or 8 2-cost backups in a ratio that fits the deck that we've already got. So again, we can look through the deck that we have here, and we can make a pile of the Ice and the Lightning cards. And as you'll see, there is a lot more ice in this deck. Well, the light can be put to one side. There's a lot more ice in this deck than lightning. So therefore, this should be reflected within the backups that we play. We don't need to run quite as many lightning backups as we do ice ones because there's a lot less of them. So if we have 18 backups, I think that the best option to make would be to run, and you don't want to skew it too heavily, but I would to run sort of 60% ice, 40% lightning when it comes to the backups. The reason it's quite as high as that, even though there are quite so few lightning cards, is because you still need to be able to discard them to pay for costs. So let's move those to one side again. And then we've already covered that we wanted Jill in the deck because Jill's part of the theme and she works perfectly with it. So that's 3. And then for ice ones, I've always been very fond of Time Mage because he's very good at slowing your opponent down in the same ways that a lot of the cards in this deck do, and he is also a 2 CP backup. So that means that we've got 5 totals for 2 CP ice backups, which covers our 60% out of the 8 that I would usually run. Devout is obviously very, very combo friendly in this deck. Devout can get out Squall, Laguna, Cloud, Ammon. It can get, there's a lot of different plays that you can make with just this card, and it's a nice one because it's as a turn 1 play. Normally, I don't like paying more than 2 for a backup on turn 1, but even though you're paying more for this, you're going to get it back later, so it's not necessarily the worst first turn play. And then, there's 3 Time Mage. I thought I only ran 2. Yeah. And then, so that gives us 6 backups for that, which is really, really good. It's more than the average. And then I'd run a single copy of Summoner because Bahamut can be a pain in the butt and you don't want things going off when you don't necessarily want them to. And having Terror and Summoner together slows your opponent's summons down to a halt. But again, you may decide you don't necessarily want to run Terror or Summoner, so you have to just see how it feels. Then, for Lightning backups tend to cost a lot more. So I've gone with, there's 7 here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. There's 16 here, which is less than the average. However, going back on what I was saying before, you can decide to run less backups if you think that your deck can accommodate them. Now, before I go any further, I'll just quickly go over the backups that I've chosen here. Now, I have opted against Lulu because one of the things that I've noticed in this deck, that there is nothing in this deck that costs 5 CP or higher, which is why, and I kind of want to keep it that way, because it means that you can get the plays down a lot quicker and you can play more frequently, so you're not stuck behind something that can get blown up too quickly. Seymour, I think, is a really good fit for the deck as a thematic play. Sage also works very well with Cloud, and it works very well with things like Squall and Laguna, anything that has sort of an coming into play effect. Black Mage I felt was probably the better of the two CP backup units for Lightning. However, you could quite happily change it for Red Mage if you think that you'd want to go more aggressive. This Black Mage can kill units. It's rare that it can do it, but it can do it. It can kill Snow, it can kill ninjas, it can kill all sorts of different things, but it's a choice and it can easily be changed. Again, through testing, we'll have to figure out whether we want to keep these or not. Now, so I've kept with the 7 and 9, so that's 60% ice, 40% lightning. However, we still have 2 spaces left. Now, I could opt to run 2 more backups if I wanted to. However, I think because the costs in this deck are so low, I don't think I need to do that. So what I decided to go with instead is to keep a low CP forward that can apply pressure early game. And I've grown to really be quite fond of this ninja because it's very rare that your opponent is going to want to block it. So, with that said, then that leaves us with a total of 10 summons, 16 backups, taking us to 26, and then 24 forwards, which brings us to our 50. Now, the important thing to note here is that you just need to, at this point, play the damn deck. All you've got to do is just play it and see how you feel about it. If you want to change anything, then change it. It's not going to kill you. This is the thing. It's like losing is a learning curve, and I've had to learn this the hard way as well. But being a sore loser doesn't help anything. If you're upset with the deck, then change it to a way that suits you. And if you're still just not feeling it, scrap it and try another one. I mean, alright, it's easy for me to say because I have access to all of the cards in the game, but if you don't, then you need to play with what you have and make it work. And it's, a lot of Final Fantasy players in my experience have been very generous. So if you need help, ask for help. It's not, you don't have to do this on your own. It's meant to be a community-driven thing. Now, with this particular deck, I shall probably start streaming with this deck because I have started streaming now. I did my first one on Wednesday and it was a little bit rocky. Still learning how all that works, and I did a drawing online. But yeah, and then past that, I hope that you really like, you can feel free to copy this deck and try it for yourself and see what you think and change it to your own liking. And I'll see you guys in a bit. So that's it for that video, and I really hope that it provided you with a little bit of insight as to kind of, if you're just starting out with playing the game or anything like that, reasons why certain cards get picked over others. If you have any questions or anything, then feel free to leave a comment in the comments below. I'll leave a link to my new Twitch channel, which I'll leave in the description box. I'm hoping to do card games, video games, and drawing, so it's ambitious, but if I can make it work, then great. And I've been speaking to a few people over the course of the last few weeks about like how to get started and stuff like that. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius recently on my phone, and a guy called Claic, who's been doing videos for it for a long time, and he does it way better than I ever could. You should totally check out his channel. He's been helping me through a lot of it as well. But yeah, it's really nice to see you guys again, to make videos again. I hope that you guys haven't turned off me too quickly, having had a break or anything like that, but hopefully I'll get to speak to you guys sooner rather than later. So thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. You should always remember to subscribe. And I'll speak to you guys later. Bye now.